How there? Tell me in the comments which country and city you're from. Stick to making coffee, Kelly. Doug Lamb said it loudly enough for the entire room to hear. The laughter that followed wasn't booming, just a couple of smug smiles and a dry little chuckle from Councilman Owens, but it landed all the same. Heat rushed up my neck and into my face. I scanned the chamber, waiting for someone, anyone, to step in. No one did. Eyes dropped to papers, phone suddenly became fascinating, like it was just another routine meeting. I'd spent 9 years in that department, handling zoning reviews, permits, grant tracking, proposal indexing. I was the one who caught errors before they turned into lawsuits. But the moment I raised my hand and pointed out a flaw in Doug's shiny redevelopment grant, I was reduced to the coffee girl. I wasn't even holding a cup. I had a thick binder open in front of me, pages tabbed in red and blue, grant language highlighted and cross-referenced. Doug didn't care. He leaned back in his chair, pleased with himself, like he'd just scored a point. "Mr. Lamb," I said evenly, "there's a clause here that overrides Section 5. It's buried, but it's valid, and it changes the entire usage designation." He flicked his hand dismissively, like swatting a fly. "Kelly, we've got legal and planning reviewing this. You're not zoning oversight. Just log the minutes and let the professionals handle it." A few heads nodded, others stared anywhere but at me. I closed my folder and sat back, my hands shaking. Not fear, anger. The sick, twisting kind that settled deep in my stomach. Doug was an idiot wrapped in confidence, and somehow people followed him like he knew what he was doing. He'd been elected 2 years ago on billboards and slogans about revitalization. He didn't understand the mechanics of these projects, but he understood optics, and he knew exactly how to crush people who didn't fight back. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd already noticed something wrong in the paperwork. Not a typo, not a missing attachment, a loophole, a real one, and it shouldn't have been there. That night, I stayed late. Everyone else cleared out before 5. I shut my office door, flipped off the hallway lights, and started digging. I combed through zoning ordinances stretching back 4 decades. 4 hours in, I found it. A single sentence buried in an old provision. My pulse spiked. I pulled the parcel map, checked the project timeline, verified land status, then checked it all again. That's when it clicked. They hadn't just missed something, they'd walked straight into it. I printed the clause and laid it flat on my desk. It dated back to March of 1993, tucked inside a transitional land use policy. Never repealed, never updated, just sitting there. One line, clear as day. If a public-private development project fails to begin construction within 6 years of approval, legal stewardship may revert to a private applicant via temporary community use permit. I read it again and again. Doug's so-called Keystone project had been stalled nearly 8 years. Lawsuits, delays, red tape. Now it was nothing but fencing and weeds off Main Street, and he was selling it as the crown jewel of a $58 million plan. I called my cousin Rachel, a paralegal specializing in land use out in Sacramento. We don't talk often, but the second I mentioned an old zoning clause, she sharpened up. "Send it," she said. "Give me 20 minutes." I paced my living room with a warm beer while my phone lit up on the counter. 20 became 30. Then she called. "Kelly, this is legitimate. It's enforceable." "You're positive?" "Completely. It's still on the books. File the form and the county records it. Temporary stewardship is yours until development actually starts." I looked at the form already half filled out. County Form 9B72. Barely 2 pages, hardly ever used. That's why no one noticed. "How much to file?" I asked. She laughed. $5, probably cash. "Go now." I did. Walked into the county office that afternoon with my paperwork and my ID. The clerk barely glanced at me before stamping it. $5. That's what it cost to derail a mayor's flagship project. I grabbed tacos on the way home and ate them in my car, fingers greasy, heart pounding. The next morning, I showed up at 8 like nothing had changed. Doug passed me in the hallway without a glance. Fine. I sat down, opened the weekly report, but my eyes kept drifting to the planning calendar. Permits were supposed to be pulled by Friday, except now they couldn't, not without going through me. The county system lagged. It would take time to update, but once it did, everything would freeze. Zoning conflict, ownership claim, legal hold. I forwarded copies to my personal email, printed backups, and stored them separately. Not paranoia, preparation. I wasn't chasing glory. I just wanted him to stop treating people like disposable furniture. This wasn't revenge, it was leverage. I worked quietly, smiled when spoken to. Inside, I was steady as a wire under current. I waited. 2 days passed, nothing. Then Wednesday morning, shouting erupted down the hall. The emergency session started, closed meetings, no invitations for me. On my screen, permit dates quietly slid backwards. They knew. People started watching me differently. Questions that weren't really questions. At lunch, I overheard whispers about a filing issue with the land office. That night, I documented everything. Dates, proofs, names. I wasn't scared. I was ready. Thursday morning, I logged in and barely had time to breathe before my phone rang. "The mayor wants to see you." Of course he did. I walked into Doug's office. He leaned back, smiling like he was in control. "Kelly, have a seat." I stayed standing. He mentioned the county notice, asked why I filed the claim. I answered plainly. He laughed, said the clause was obsolete. I looked him straight in the eye. It was never repealed, never amended. It's still binding. His laugh died. "Kelly, you don't understand how these things work." "I understand the law," I said, and I followed it. He leaned forward, elbows hitting the desk with a soft thud. "You filed a claim that could derail a $58 million plan." "That's not my fault," I said. "That's yours." His jaw ticked. He tried to play it off like he wasn't bothered, leaning back again, tapping a pen on the desk, but the tapping sped up. "Look," he said, "I'm sure you thought you were doing something clever, but you're not a planner, you're not legal, you're not management, you're a clerk." I didn't react. I wanted him to keep talking. "And clerks," he said, "don't just seize land in the middle of a redevelopment plan." "Stewardship," I said, "not seizure. Temporary stewardship, and only because your team let the deadline rot." His face darkened. "What exactly do you want out of this?" he asked. "Attention? A bigger office? You trying to make a name for yourself?" "I want you to stop acting like you're untouchable," I said. That landed hard. He stared at me, eyes narrowing, calculating. Then he pushed back from his desk and stood. "You think this is some game, some stunt you can pull and go back to logging paperwork?" "I followed the law," I said, calm, steady. He stepped around the desk, closing the distance between us. Not touching me, he wasn't stupid, but close enough that I could smell the anger on him, that sour mix of coffee and ego. "You're tanking your career," he said. "I'm telling you plainly, you will never work in government again after this. Not in this city, not anywhere." My pulse kicked up, but I kept my voice level. "I did what was legal, what was allowed." He scoffed. "Legal? You think legal matters? You think you can blow up my project and walk out like you did nothing wrong? You ignored a clause because you thought no one would look," I said. "That's not my problem." His face twisted and the mask cracked completely. "You have no idea who you're messing with." "Then we'll see," I said. He stepped back, fists clenching and unclenching at his sides. For a second, I thought he might actually throw something, but he held it together, barely. "Get out," he said. I didn't move. Now I turned, opened the door, and walked out without another word. People in the hallway glanced up, then quickly looked away, but I saw their faces. Curiosity, nerves, fear. They knew something was breaking open. I kept walking, steady and hard, until I reached my desk. I sat down, opened my laptop, and started working like nothing had happened. Let him rage, let him scramble. The line had been drawn, and he was the one who crossed it first. I kept working until a little after 2 when my phone buzzed again. This time it was HR, not a name, the department line. Never a good sign. "Kelly, can you step into our office?" the woman said. Her tone was bright in that fake, sugary way people use right before they hand you a knife. "Sure," I said, and stood up. I walked down the hall, past a couple of coworkers who suddenly found the carpet fascinating. HR's door was already open. Inside sat 2 reps, Melissa and Brian, both smiling like they'd rehearsed it. "Thanks for coming," Melissa said. "Take a seat." I didn't. What's this about? Brian slid a sheet of paper across the table. We received a conduct inquiry regarding insubordination and potential misuse of public information. There it was. No warm-up, no pretense. I picked up the paper and read it. The language was vague on purpose. Behavior inconsistent with departmental expectations. Concerns regarding unauthorized activity. It was the kind of write-up used to justify whatever punishment they wanted. Later, I set it back down. You know, this is retaliation. Melissa's smile twitched. We're simply following procedure. Whose procedure? I asked. Doug's. Brian's eyes flicked toward the door like he expected someone to be listening. We can't comment on internal discussions, he said. Then this meeting is over. I turned and walked out before they could say anything else. My heartbeat was steady. I'd expected this. Hell, I'd prepared for it. I went back to my desk, pulled out my phone, and texted my lawyer one word. Call. He rang within a minute. Let me guess, he said. HR? Conduct inquiry, I said. He exhaled. Good. Send me a copy. I already wrote the response last night. Of course he had. That's why I hired him. He told me he'd send everything to the county oversight board before end of day. Then he added, they're going to escalate tomorrow. Don't react. Just follow the plan. I hung up, forwarded him the document, and kept working until 5 like nothing had happened. When I walked out of the office, the sky was turning orange, and I felt strangely calm. The next morning, I swiped my badge at my workstation, and my screen flashed a message I'd never seen before. Access restricted. Contact administrator. They'd locked my computer. I sat down anyway and waited. 2 minutes later, an HR aide approached me, a young guy named Thomas, who usually couldn't string 2 sentences together without sweating. Kelly, he said, we need you to come with us. I opened my bag, pulled out a sealed envelope, and handed it to him. This is for Melissa, I said. It's a formal notice. Your actions are illegal retaliation. My attorney copied the oversight board already. Thomas took the envelope with both hands like it might explode. Okay, I'll take it to her. Do that. He hurried away. A few people nearby pretended not to stare. I could feel their eyes anyway. 5 minutes later, I saw Melissa through the glass window of her office, reading the letter. Her smile dropped so fast it looked like someone had slapped it off her face. She called Brian over. He read it, then rubbed his forehead with his palm like he had a migraine. Good. I turned my locked computer screen off and started organizing my desk. Not packing, just setting things in order. I wasn't going anywhere. They knew it now. 2 hours later, the IT restrictions vanished from my workstation without anyone saying a word. No apology, no explanation, just silent backpedaling. I logged in and went right back to work. If Doug wanted a war, he'd picked the wrong person to push around, and I was just getting started. After that, everything around the office shifted. People still said good morning, but their voices were tight, like they didn't want to get caught speaking too loud near me. Some avoided eye contact altogether. Some asked questions they had no business asking, careful, probing things. Hey, Kelly, you doing okay? You think this grant stuff will blow over soon? How long you planning to stay in this department? They weren't just curious, they were scared. Not of me, of what I might know, what I might do next. No one said Doug's name, but I could feel it hanging between every sentence like a bad smell. By Friday, the tension was thick enough to chew through. I needed air. I texted my lawyer, just one word: lunch. We met at a corner diner downtown off Oakenforth. Greasy tables, cracked vinyl booths, best club sandwich in the city. He was already in the back booth, legal pad in one hand, fries in the other. Figured you'd call, he said, sliding over to make room. I sat down and ordered coffee, black. I didn't need food, I needed to know where the ground was shifting. They're nervous, I said. They backed off the system lockout, but now they're playing quiet. He nodded. They're regrouping, but they're not done. You think they'll try to fire me? I'd bet on it. That or transfer you somewhere dead end. Claim it's a restructure, but they know you're protected now. That letter to HR was a big shot across the bow. I leaned forward. What happens if they pulled the trigger anyway? He reached into his bag and pulled out a thin manila folder. "That's your injunction, pre-drafted. I can file it same day if they try anything. Civil protections, whistleblower laws, we've got enough to make them sweat." I flipped it open. 4 pages, clean and brutal. "This go public?" I asked. He grinned. "Not yet, but it might." He slid his phone across the table. "Open message thread, name at the top. Jordan Lang, local post. She's good," he said. "Knows how to keep things off the record until it matters. I've been feeding her quiet background info. No leaks, just breadcrumbs. If Doug tries to bury this, we light it up." I nodded. "You think he'll fold?" He picked up a fry, waved it like a pointer. "No, he'll lash out. It's all he knows. Bluff and scream until people back down." "Not me," I said. "Exactly." The waitress came by, refilled the coffee, and left. We sat in silence for a few seconds, watching the steam rise. "Kelly," he said, finally, tone low, "this isn't just about a land claim anymore. You pulled the thread. They're scrambling because you exposed their incompetence. Doug's scared, but he'll never admit it. He'll push until he slips. Or you do." I met his eyes. "Then I won't slip." That weekend, I didn't leave the house. No grocery run, no errands. Just me, my laptop, and a yellow notepad full of what-if plans. What if they threatened me again? What if they leaked something about me in public before I got ahead of it? I made folders, labeled timelines, reviewed everything I'd saved, and backed it up twice. Cloud, drive, print. I pulled my old office badge and stuck it in a drawer just in case they tried to lock me out Monday. I even typed up a statement, 1 paragraph tight and cold, explaining my actions and linking them directly to city code. And then I waited. Not scared, not paranoid, just ready. They'd made their move. Next one was mine. Monday morning came fast. I hadn't slept more than 3 hours. I kept replaying different versions of what could go wrong. But when my city email pinged at 8:07 a.m. with a calendar invite from the Oversight Committee, everything clicked into place. Subject line, Urgent City Oversight Hearing. Addendum. Required attendees, me, Doug Lom. Council members Hayes, Tran, Ortiz, and Given. I didn't flinch. I just stood up, grabbed my prepared folder from the top drawer, and walked straight to the second-floor conference room. The blinds were already closed. Inside, the long oak table looked like it had been wiped down twice. Doug was at the far end, sitting stiff, suit jacket unbuttoned, jaw set. He didn't look at me. 4 council members sat across the table. Hayes nodded at me politely. Ortiz gave a faint smile. Tran was unreadable. Given kept tapping her pen against her notebook. "Ms. Rollins," Hayes said, clearing her throat, "you understand why you're here today?" I took the seat opposite Doug and opened my folder. "Yes, I'm here to explain the zoning claim I filed and the fallout since." Hayes nodded. "We've reviewed part of the situation, but please walk us through your understanding." I laid it out clean, no fluff. I told them about the clause, the zoning loophole never repealed, still active. I explained how the project had missed its construction window by more than 6 years. I passed them the city code printout highlighted in yellow, followed by the time-stamped filing receipt from the county clerk's office. I filed this as a private citizen under the law. No city resources were used. It cost me $5. Ortiz looked surprised. Given stopped tapping her pen. "Why didn't anyone catch this before?" Tran asked. Doug shifted in his seat. "Because no one bothered to look," I said. "The language has been public record since 1993. Hayes leaned forward. "You also allege there's been retaliation. Please explain." I handed over a copy of the HR inquiry, followed by the lockout notice from my computer system. The day after I filed the claim, I was hit with a conduct warning. The next day, they disabled my workstation. My lawyer responded to both. The city backed off without comment. Doug finally spoke. She overstepped. She accessed information outside her scope of work and acted against the interests of the city. I didn't even turn to him. Everything I used is public. I accessed it after hours with my own login. The interest I protected was the law, not your PR timeline. Tran looked at Doug. "Did your office investigate the validity of the clause before proceeding with action against Miss Rollins?" Doug's jaw flexed. "We were addressing internal disruption." "That's not what this looks like," Given said, finally speaking. Doug's face stayed tight. He didn't look at me, but I could feel the heat rolling off him. Hayes looked through the documents again, flipping slowly. "Do you have any further evidence?" she asked. "I have backups of everything," I said, "digitally and printed, dates, timestamps, witness logs. I'm not here to play politics, I just want the law respected." Ortiz cleared her throat. "Do you have a financial interest in this land?" "No," I said. "No developer ties, no family involved. My claim is legal stewardship, not ownership." They didn't thank me, didn't dismiss me, just told me I could go. I stood, packed my folder, and walked to the door. My hand was on the handle when I heard Given whisper to Hayes. She came in more prepared than Doug. I didn't smile, but I noted it. As I stepped out into the hallway, the air felt heavy, like the first seconds before a thunderclap. Doug wasn't smirking anymore. By the time I got back to my desk, the storm had already started. One of the IT guys passed by and dropped a printed notice on my desk like it was radioactive. No greeting, no eye contact, just a paper and a fast walk away. City website update. Project status change. I clicked over to the public portal. Heart steady, fingers calm. Right there on the homepage, buried in the bottom right corner like they hoped no one would see it. Downtown Revitalization Project. Delayed pending review. No mention of the clause, no explanation, just a single quiet sentence that meant every domino had started to fall. By 2 p.m., the whispers got louder. I overheard one planner say, "Doug's in with legal again." Another said, "Council's trying to cover their ass now." Someone from finance asked if they should pause the next disbursement for the grant. I didn't say a word, didn't even glance up, but I felt it, the pressure shifting. The room had changed, and everyone knew why. Doug was drowning, and they all smelled blood in the water. By 4 p.m., my inbox pinged with a message from HR. Subject, Conduct Inquiry Update. Message, after internal review, no further action will be taken at this time. That was it. No apology, no "sorry we tried to screw you," just a cold little tap-out with zero accountability. I printed it anyway, highlighted the subject line, filed it with everything else. At 4:17, my phone rang. "Kelly, it's Jordan Lang from the local Post." Her voice was clear, professional. She didn't waste time. "I've been following your situation off record so far, but now the city just delayed a $58 million project with no explanation. Can we talk?" I paused. She kept going. "We don't have to name you right now, but we're going to run the story either way. What you say could shape the angle." I looked out the window. Gray sky, thin clouds, the kind of calm that felt like the breath before a scream. "I'm not ready," I said. "You sure?" she asked. "Yeah, I'm sure." I ended the call and dropped my phone face down. I wasn't being shy, I wasn't scared, I just wasn't finished yet. Let them scramble, let Doug stew under the lights of his own making. Every council member who once parroted his speeches was now stepping back, checking their alignment. Nobody wanted to get caught in the fire if this thing blew wide. But I knew how this game worked. Going public too soon gives them a headline to spin, gives Doug a target to shoot at. I wasn't giving him that, not yet. I watched as people filed out early, fake excuses in hand, dentist appointments, kid stuff. One guy said he had a migraine and then ducked into the parking lot like he owed someone money. Even Melissa from HR didn't make eye contact when she passed me. Good. They wanted this quiet, clean, a silent unraveling that didn't lead back to anyone's office door. But it was too late for that. I stayed until 5:30, alone, lights humming, fingers resting on my keyboard while my screen went dark. They thought a delay notice would end it. They thought I'd take the win and walk away. They didn't understand the kind of person they were dealing with. This wasn't about revenge, it was about leverage, and I had more of it now than I ever expected. Thursday morning, I didn't even get my coat off before someone whispered, "Check your email." I sat down, logged in, and there it was, a one-line internal memo marked "Confidential, Staff Awareness Only." Subject: Interim Leadership Adjustment. Message: Mayor Doug Laum suspended, pending ethics review. Acting city manager will assume responsibilities until further notice. No explanation, no fanfare, just a surgical slice right through the man's career. People were quiet, not tense, just waiting, like after a power outage when the lights start to flicker back on. At 10:42 a.m., I got another email, this one from the assistant to the acting city manager, Sandra Lee. Please report to city manager's office, 11 a.m. Confirm receipt? I typed received, hit send, and exhaled once. Just once. I took the long way to the top floor, let them see me walking, let them wonder why. Sandra's door was open. She stood when I came in, gestured to the seat across from her. Thanks for coming, she said. I won't keep you long. She looked nothing like Doug. No oversized ego, no fake grin, just sharp eyes and a direct tone. We're making some structural changes, she said, effective immediately. I nodded, waiting. We're creating a new compliance and ethics office. It'll operate as an internal check on future zoning, land use, procurement, and grant workflows, independent from planning and development. I want you to lead it. I blinked. I'm a clerk. Not anymore, she said, dead serious. You just saved this city from a lawsuit, a grant recall, and possibly a state audit. You caught a failure no one else even saw coming. I sat back in the chair, heart thumping once. Hard. Why me? I asked. Because you didn't just find the problem, you handled it. You documented everything. You didn't leak, you didn't grandstand, and you never backed down when they came after you. That's what I need in that role. I looked at the papers on her desk, draft org charts, new department headers, open job recs. She was serious. You'd report directly to me, she said. Not planning, not legal, certainly not Doug. That part mattered a lot. I took a breath. I'll do it, I said, but I want it in writing that my reporting line is to you permanently. If the mayor's office ever regains control of this role, I'm out. She nodded. You'll have it in writing before you sign a thing. I paused again, more out of disbelief than hesitation. What about the others? I asked. The ones who backed his retaliation. They'll be handled quietly. That's not your weight to carry. I stood up, reached across the desk, and shook her hand. Her grip was firm, no nonsense, no PR smile. We'll get you a temporary office this week, she said. Title, Director of Compliance and Ethics. Salary bump to match. You'll staff your own team. I left her office still holding the offer packet. Walking back down the hallway, I passed two of Doug's former aides. One looked away, the other offered a weak smile, like maybe we were allies now. We weren't. By the afternoon, word had spread. I didn't say anything, didn't change my tone or my routine, but I saw the shift. The stares were different now, not full of doubt or judgment, more like curiosity, like they were finally realizing I wasn't the background anymore. I made one call, and to my lawyer, told him the basics and said I'd forward the draft. He laughed. I hope they laminated that memo about the conduct warning. I didn't laugh. I just said, I want it over with, then I'll focus on the work. He got quiet for a second. They're not going to push back, not this time. I hung up and stared at the folder in my hand. Doug was out, not officially fired, but politically he was toast. And me? I was the one holding the broom after the collapse, but this time, I was the one writing the playbook. A week later, I carried a single box down the third-floor hallway and stepped into my new office. Small, no windows, beige walls, and an old desk with a drawer that stuck. But the nameplate on the door said Director, Compliance, and Ethics, and the key in my hand meant I didn't need anyone's permission to be here. I dropped the box on the desk and sat down. No ceremony, just silence and the hum of the overhead light. I turned on the computer and opened the zoning approval queue. 10 contracts, 4 variance requests, and a red flag proposal Doug's people had buried 6 months ago. It all came through me now. Every land use, every development plan, every backdoor deal someone thought they could slide through unnoticed. Not anymore. Doug? He disappeared faster than I expected. Technically, he was suspended pending review, but I hadn't seen his face in a week. Rumor around the building was he was trying to start a podcast about government innovation. Sure. No one said his name out loud. Not anymore. Some of the same people who used to laugh at his jokes now pretended they'd never been in his corner. People still looked when I passed, but the tone had changed. It wasn't mockery or confusion anymore. It was respect, or maybe caution, and that was fine by me. I didn't want applause. I didn't need the spotlight. I just wanted the work to be clean. I wanted people to think twice before trying to slide something shady through the system. For the first time in 9 years, I had the power to slow things down, to ask questions, to say no.
I didn't plan any of this. I didn't scheme or climb over people or suck up to the right nameplates. I just followed the damn rules. The ones they all forgot were still on the books. And when they came after me, I didn't yell. I didn't lose it. I documented. I backed everything up. I stood my ground while the rest of them ducked and covered. This whole thing wasn't about revenge. It was about being heard, about not getting shoved aside just because my badge didn't say manager. They tried to shut me up.